there, my name is Megan and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a book review for Immortality, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz. Immortality, a Love Story is the second book in a YA duology, the first book being Anatomy, a Love Story. If you have not read that book first, I do suggest reading it before Immortality because it does provide context, even though the first book can be read as a standalone. I do have a full review for Anatomy, a Love Story, so I will link that up in the cards as well as in the description box if you want to check it out. This is a YA historical fiction, and it does have some fantastical elements in there. Do not go into this story thinking that it is going to be 100% historically accurate, because it absolutely is not. The author does take real historical figures and weaves this fictional story around them that is a far cry from the events that actually happened in real life. The way that I structure my reviews is I discuss the plot of the book, the things that I like and the things that I didn't like, and then I give the book an overall rating. If you are interested in skipping to any one of these particular sections, you can check the timestamps down below. In this book, we are following a girl named Hazel Sennett. She is 17 years old and she has only ever wanted to be a surgeon. In book one, she attempted to dress up as a boy and enter the Anatomist Society to be able to take the doctor's exams, was found out, kicked out. So she ended up opening kind of like a clinic in her home. She lives in Hawthorne Castle. Her dad is a naval officer. He's away. The mom and the younger brother are in London. So Hazel had this house to herself, and she is a self-taught doctor slash surgeon. And in book one, we learned that she was getting her friend Jack to help her dig up dead bodies so that she had corpses that she could actually learn from and do surgery on to help her increase her knowledge in human anatomy, etc. In this book, we start out by Hazel being accused of a medical crime that she did not actually commit, and it is punishable by death, but she is saved from hanging by the King of England. His granddaughter, Princess Charlotte, has had a lot of illnesses over the years, and no doctor has been able to figure out what's wrong with her, so they decide to bring in Hazel to see if she can solve the mystery. So Hazel goes from Edinburgh, Scotland, all the way to London and begins work with the royal family. She also learns about something called the Companions to the Death, this very elite group of people, scientists, artists, poets, people who hold a lot of sway and influence in London, and she begins to learn about some deep, dark things that the Companions of Death are involved in and kind of what they're orchestrating. We also learn exactly what is wrong with the Princess Charlotte and how her illness and her actions are affecting the monarchy. Hazel finds herself embroiled in the machinations of the London court, as well as the influence that the Companions of Death have over the royal court, as well as her influence over Charlotte being her doctor. We also have a romance subplot, so I'm not going to go into spoilers, but there was a romance aspect in the first book between Jack, a character, and Hazel. And in this book, we have a romance subplot and a small love triangle as well. As for the things that I liked, like I said, this author does take historical events, historical places, and historical people and does create a fictionalized story surrounding them. What I really enjoyed was actually being able to read about these people in this book and then going and looking them up and learning about the real people that they were in history. So this book actually starts off kind of like with a prologue with a gentleman named Lavoisier. And he was a French scientist who did a lot of work with like oxygen, discovered the element of oxygen, and his wife was actually very instrumental in helping him, and they basically worked as a pair together. She worked right alongside him, she was a chemist as well, and she also translated a lot of his work for him because he didn't speak English. So it was just interesting reading about them because I'd never heard of Lavoisier before. I didn't know that he was beheaded. I didn't know that his wife was so influential and helpful and a part of his discoveries. So I learned about that. I also learned about some of the ruling monarchs during this time period. I'm not well versed on English monarchy, so just being able to read about these people in a fiction book and then learn more about who they were in real life was very enjoyable for me. I also really like the setting of this book. I think I said that in the first review I did, but if you are someone that likes stories that take place in the early 1800s that really involve kind of like that high society setting with royalty and people of wealth and influence and prestige and just kind of their interactions amongst each other. If you're someone that enjoys stories like this might speak to you. I also really liked the characters in this book. We got introduced to some new characters, and I really enjoyed Gaspar. He was more of a side character to Hazel, but the little bit of interactions that he had with her, I really enjoyed. He was just one of those characters that seemed to be genuinely good at heart and humble and down to earth, and I just found him a bit refreshing. And I also really liked the love interest, the new love interest in this book. I thought that their romance was cute and well done, and even though love triangles are not really a lot of people's favorites, I think that this one actually worked well in this book, and it definitely was not the main plot of the book. Lastly, I really enjoyed how the author chose to end this book because there were some conflicts that were thrown in from the first book that played into this plot line as well, and the way that the author was able to maneuver those to give all of the characters a happy ending was really cute, really enjoyable, and I was satisfied with the ending. As for the things that I didn't like about this book, like I said, this book does have a fantastical element. If you're someone that is like going into this thinking that this book is going to be a stickler to historical fiction, it absolutely 100% is not. The fantastical element does play into the characters that I just said, like the Lavoisiers. We also have a character, Lord Byron, Voltaire is in this book. All of those were famous people. There also was a subplot at the end of the book that actually I did not like at all, and it has to do with Princess Charlotte. This is going to be a little bit spoilery, so if you do not want to be spoiled, please make sure you're checking the timestamps down below. But towards the end of the book, we learn that Princess Charlotte does not want to marry the Prince of Orange. She does not want to be a monarch. She does not want to be a symbol for her country who lives in a gilded cage, and she is in love with her lady in waiting named Eliza, and they just want to like move away together, be together. So Hazel ends up orchestrating Charlotte's fake death, and she goes and gets a corpse that looks like Charlotte and pretends that Charlotte died. The entire country mourns, and then Eliza and Charlotte are able to run off together and live happily ever after. And in my mind, I'm like, I really don't see how this ever would have happened. Number one, Hazel is claiming to be a doctor, and doctors are held to high ethical standards. I'm not saying that all doctors do the right thing all the time and are honest and ethical all the time, because that's obviously not true. But if Hazel is wanting to make herself distinguished, she is wanting to stand out as a female surgeon, someone of integrity, she would not have lied to the entire country of England, misrepresented an illness that her patient did not have, go into cahoots with another doctor about making up an illness that doesn't even exist just so Charlotte and Eliza could run away together. Like, when she did that, I pretty much lost all respect for her as someone who wants to be professionally respected as a surgeon, as a doctor, as someone of intelligence and integrity, because she is a liar and a fraud. So that part of the story I absolutely hated, and I didn't think it was necessary for the plot. And then in the back of the book, the author had, kind of the not the fantastical, the historical misrepresentations that she had put in the book, and then put like what actually happened to those people. So I found it kind of interesting that Princess Charlotte actually died in childbirth or from complications of childbirth when she was, I believe, 21 years old. And then the last thing that I didn't like so much was I felt like the climax at the end was way too rushed. So we did have an antagonist in this book that was kind of maneuvering things in the monarchy and the court system of London at this time. And at first, we think that this character is right and good and is going to help Hazel, but in the end, we see that that's not the case. And I understand why the author had to include this climax in the end, because it drove the ending. Like, without that event happening, the ending couldn't have happened how it happened. But it just was not well written to me. It was very rushed and a bit like eye-rolly. All in all, I thought Immortality, a Love Story was a nice addition to the first book. I like how the author was able to tie up those loose ends with regards to Hazel and Jack's story, and I felt like this one was fast-paced and fun. I enjoyed the setting just like I did the first one. The fantastical elements definitely have to suspend your belief because they are a bit ridiculous at times, but this is definitely not a historically accurate book in any shape of the imagination, and I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. All right, you guys, let me know in the comments if you've read Immortality, a Love Story, and what you thought of it, or if you've read any book similar to this, and I will see you all in another video soon. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.